The movie opens with Vic Allen pedaling home after a vigorous ride through the woods. As he arrives, he disrobed at the door, stepping inside to find his wife, Melinda, waiting in silence without uttering a word. Melinda heads to their bedroom. Vic and Melinda, who live in the vibrant setting of Louisiana, have a young daughter named Trixie tonight. They're in need of a babysitter for Trixie because they plan to attend a lively party at a friend's house. Later, Melinda asks Vic to help her pick out a dress for the evening when they finally arrive at the party. The atmosphere is buzzing. Melinda, however, quickly abandons her husband and zeroes in on a young man named Joel, whom she introduces as her close friend. With no hesitation, Melinda and Joel slip away from the crowd and retreat to the backyard. Vic, left behind, watches in shock as his wife and Joel share an intimate kiss under the stars. Mary expresses her concerns about Melinda's behavior with Joel, but Vic brushes off her worries, insisting that it doesn't bother him. As they pass by Vic, she mocks him, calling him boring. Meanwhile, she takes center stage at the piano, serenading the guests and receiving enthusiastic applause. Joel approaches Vic for a chat. He thanks Vic for allowing him such a close relationship with Melinda. Seizing the moment, Vic casually brings up a past boyfriend of Melinda's named Martin, who mysteriously vanished a month ago. Vic makes a macabre joke about having killed Martin with a hammer. Joel's face goes pale at the comment, and Vic quickly clarifies that it was just a joke. However, Joel seems deeply unsettled after bidding farewell to Melinda. Joel exits the party, visibly shaken and disturbed. Once the event wraps up, Melinda confronts Vic, eager to find out what he said to Joel that made him so upset and anxious to leave. Vic covers up the truth, insisting he didn't say anything to Joel as they head home. Once inside, he retreats to his tranquil snail farm, finding solace in watching the creatures reproduce. The next morning, as Vic is in the kitchen with Trixie, Melinda makes a disturbing comment, suggesting Trixie might grow up to be a bomb maker like her father. Trixie corrects her, pointing out that Vic is actually a chip maker for military drones. Though Vic was once deeply involved in his work, he left his job when he felt financially secure, choosing instead to immerse himself in his passions like cycling and spending time with friends. After dropping Trixie off at school, Vic encounters a friend who accuses him of being a murderer, as word of his unsettling conversation with Joel has spread. Later, at a gathering with close friends, they express concern and advise him to manage his wife better rather than resorting to threats. Meanwhile, Melinda discovers Vic's dark joke about Martin's disappearance and is furious. In response, she decides to invite Joel over for dinner. Melinda insists that Vic apologize for his earlier words and behavior. The evening is tense with awkward glances and unspoken words hanging in the air as they sit down for the meal. Melinda hints that Vic should have acted more civilly towards Joel. Vic, on the other hand, retorts that if Melinda truly wanted him to behave normally, she wouldn't have invited Joel in the first place. The conversation escalates, becoming increasingly heated. Melinda tells Trixie to head to bed and asks Vic to read her a bedtime story. After tucking Trixie in and bidding her goodnight, Vic heads downstairs. He hears the unmistakable sound of Melinda and Joel in an intimate embrace. Vic's face reveals his growing frustration and anger at their behavior. Later, with Joel alone, Vic approaches him to apologize for the earlier joke. However, Vic's apology quickly takes a dark turn as he continues to recount the gruesome tale of how he supposedly killed Martin with a hammer. Vic, feeling the pressure of the evening, warns Joel to leave before his temper gets the best of him. The next day, Vic and his family attend a lively party where Vic encounters Don Wilson, a writer famed for his conspiracy theory novels. During their conversation, Don's demeanor shifts when he learns about Vic's past as a bomb maker. Unaware that Vic's earlier talk of killing Martin was just a dark joke meant to unsettle Joel, Don accuses Vic of murder. The guests in the know about the joke are bemused by Don's reaction while the party buzzes on. Vic takes a surprising turn by asking Kelly Wilson, Don's wife, for a dance. Known for his typically stiff and reserved nature, Vic's graceful moves on the dance floor astonish everyone. Later in their car ride back home, Vic candidly mentions to Melinda that he finds Kelly attractive and enjoys their conversation. Melinda, feeling the sting of jealousy, perceives this as a challenge to her own appeal. Determined to prove she remains the most captivating woman in Vic's life, starts touching Vic intimately, igniting a passionate response from him. After proving her point, she declares she'd rather die than hear Vic praise Kelly. Their heated exchange leads to a steamy make-out session in the bedroom. The following day, Vic encounters Melinda at Trixie's soccer game shortly after he receives a concerning call from a bank. Melinda has sent $3,000 to someone named Charles for piano lessons. Alarmed, Vic rushes to his office to investigate Charles. His search leads him to a restaurant where Charles works, only to discover that Melinda is there too. Appearing unusually interested in Charles, Vic, suspicion grows that Charles might be Melinda's new love interest. Upon returning home, Vic is stunned to find Melinda's wedding ring lying in the sink. Later, while watching the news, Vic is shocked to learn that Martin's death was caused by a head wound. He shares the grim news with Melinda. Melinda is visibly shaken by the revelation. The next morning, Vic brings joy to Trixie by surprising her with a new dog to adopt on his way home. Vic spots Charles holding a bouquet of flowers, presumably for Melinda. Infuriated, Vic finds the flowers on his kitchen table when he arrives and promptly throws them into the trash. Later, Vic meets a friend at the restaurant where Charles works, pouring out his frustrations. Back in his garden, Vic's mind drifts to disturbing fantasies of Melinda and Charles making out in a car, completely disregarding his emotions. The next day, Vic anxiously waits at home for Melinda, who hasn't returned all night, fearing that her absence may be a sign of further betrayal. When Melinda finally arrives, Vic confronts her, demanding to know where she's been and about the $3,000 she gave to Charles. His patience is wearing thin, and the tension between them is palpable. Vic's anger boils over as he confronts Melinda, demanding she end her affair with Charles immediately. Melinda seems to dismiss his words with a cold indifference. Later, Vic and Melinda attend a lively party where Charles is also a guest. Melinda, with a sense of pride, introduces Charles to the attendees and invites him to showcase his piano skills. Charles's performance electrifies the room, igniting excitement and dancing among the guests. Throughout the evening, Vic's frustration grows as he watches Melinda draw closer to Charles. Seeking Melinda, Vic asks a friend for her whereabouts and learns she's upstairs. When he arrives, he is met with a troubling sight. Melinda is leaving a room with Charles. They head towards the pool where, in full view of the party guests, they share a romantic moment in the water, completely unconcerned with Vic's presence or feelings. A heavy rain suddenly begins to pour. Only Vic and Charles remain in the water. In a sudden outburst of fury, Vic attacks and kills Charles, leaving the body floating in the pool. Vic then returns to the party, his demeanor eerily calm, as if nothing has happened. Later, Melinda begins to search for Charles throughout the house. Her search leads her back to the pool, where she lets out a horrified scream upon discovering Charles's unconscious body floating in the chaos. They pull Charles's body from the pool, but the scene turns tragic. The slippery floor causes Charles's body to slip, and his head strikes the edge of the pool, resulting in instant death. The arrival of the police sets off a flurry of activity as they start their investigation. Melinda is still in shock, accuses Vic of murdering Charles. However, others at the party dispute her claim. The police, after a thorough investigation, conclude that Charles's death was due to hitting his head on the poolside. However, Don Wilson, who remains suspicious, proposes an alternative theory that Charles might have died while still in the pool. The police find no substantial evidence to support foul play, and they ultimately rule Charles's death an accident. Once the chaos subsides, Vic and Melinda return home. Vic, deep in thought about their future, questions whether they should consider separating or if she is afraid of him. Melinda reassures him with a smile, saying she isn't afraid and doesn't want a divorce. She believes his actions were for her and insists there is no reason for them to part ways. A few days later, Vic resumes his daily routine, including his cycling sessions. However, he begins to notice a mysterious figure watching him from a distance. One day after dropping Trixie off at school, Vic steps outside and approaches Kelly. Kelly reveals to Vic that her husband, Don, has started to suspect him of Charles's death. Don is even planning to discuss his suspicions with Melinda. Alarmed by this news, Vic decides to invite both Kelly and Don over for dinner. Hoping to confront Don privately about his accusations, Vic uses the opportunity to address Don's suspicions head-on. He demands that Don cease spreading rumors about him being a killer. Despite Vic's attempts to deflect, Don remains convinced of Vic's guilt, bringing up the earlier death of Martin as further evidence. Despite his fear, Don staunchly defends his theory. The next day, Vic already on edge, he notices a car seemingly following him and investigates the car. To his shock, he discovers a hidden camera inside, confirming his fears that someone is monitoring his every move. Vic's distrust deepens as he enters the restaurant and is taken aback to find Melinda sitting with a man. The man introduces himself as David, a psychologist planning to open a new practice in the city. Despite David's friendly demeanor and explanations, Vic suspects David might be a private investigator hired by Don and Melinda. Vic leaves the restaurant and heads straight to Don's house. He arrives with evidence of Melinda's payment to Don's account. Vic accuses Don of overstepping boundaries and meddling in his personal affairs. The confrontation leaves Kelly, who is also present, both embarrassed and furious with her husband for his actions. As Vic prepares to leave, he spots Melinda with her new boyfriend. This time, Melinda doesn't notice Vic, who decides to follow them discreetly, hoping to uncover the true nature of their relationship. That night, while bathing his daughter with a smile, Trixie casually mentions that she knows her father killed Charles. Shocked by her daughter's words, Vic tells Trixie to don't tell anyone about it. The next day, Vic invites Melinda's new friend to his house, only to realize that the man is Melinda's ex-boyfriend named Tony. Melinda's behavior was getting worse and worse, and she even dared to tell Vic that Tony was the first American guy she slept with. To make matters worse, they repeat their intimate act in front of Vic, showing no remorse or guilt. Some other day, Vic finds Tony walking on foot. Vic lies to Tony that Melinda is waiting for him at a house they are considering buying. Tony immediately believes him and joins Vic to go to the supposed location. However, Vic actually takes Tony to an empty woods near the river where he often cycles. He stops at the edge of a steep drop, and as Tony steps out of the car, Vic seizes the opportunity. He hurls a rock at Tony, striking him in the head. Vic then grabs a larger rock and throws it with deadly force, sending Tony tumbling into the ravine where he hits his head on a large boulder, killing him instantly. Vic drags Tony's lifeless body to the river, takes his wallet, and then ties a heavy rock to Tony's body before pushing it into the river to ensure it sinks with the evidence hidden. Vic returns home, masking his actions with an air of normalcy as he shares a toast with his daughter. The following day, Vic takes Melinda and Trixie on a picnic to the very spot where he committed the crime. To Melinda, surprise, he presents her with a thoughtful gift, an album of old photographs with a heartfelt message written on the last page, expressing his love and commitment. This gesture seems to slightly mend their strained relationship. However, while searching for Trixie along the river, Vic spots Tony's body resurfacing in the water. Panicked, he quickly ushers his family back to the car. In the chaos, Melinda realizes she's left her favorite scarf behind and insists on going back to retrieve it. Vic promises Melinda that he will retrieve her scarf later after he drops them home and heads back to the woods in a hurry to check on Tony's body. Meanwhile, Melinda, while exploring Vic's snail pet room, discovers Tony's wallet, leading her to believe that Vic may have killed Tony. As Vic struggles to properly conceal Tony's body by attempting to drown it, he finds that his efforts are in vain. Just then, Don arrives, having found Melinda's scarf near the river. Don, now deeply suspicious of Vic, approaches cautiously. Vic, still grappling with the body, is caught off guard when Don sees Tony's hand floating in the water. Terrified, Don flees in his car, dialing the police as he drives. The phone slips from his hand, realizing his crime might be exposed. Vic begins a frantic chase after Don. After a tense and dangerous pursuit through the woods, Vic manages to block Don's path. Don takes a risky shortcut in a desperate attempt to escape. His car skids out of control and crashes into a cliff, resulting in his tragic death. He arrives home, where Melinda greets him with a smile. She quietly goes upstairs, leaving Vic to ponder the aftermath of the day's events. Inside the house, Melinda methodically burns Tony's wallet into the flames, the fire devouring the evidence piece by piece. And just like that, the screen fades to black. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.